Hello all and welcome to the official FanTeam podcast brought to you by FanTeam, the biggest daily fantasy site in Europe. My name is Andrew and today I'm joined once again by fantasy football expert and 3 times top 500 finisher in FPL, Mark McGettigan, aka the FPL General. How's it going, Mark?
I'm good, Andrew. Good to be back doing another one of these. Been doing okay last couple of months. There's no major big wins, but cashed out a couple of times. Been enjoying the Champions League format as
Yes.
well. So yeah, looking forward to another monster this weekend.
Just touching on the Champions League, this boy Haaland, he looks the real deal. And obviously, you're a Man United fan. I assume you're hoping he ends up at Old Trafford at some point.
Yeah, I think everyone would want him, no matter who your club is. I'm not a massive fan of Ole Gunnar Solskjaer, but I think the longer he can stay there probably increases the chances of that Norwegian connection between himself and Haaland making that move happen. So hopefully, before Solskjaer does move on, he can get Haaland in the door.
But do you think he can take Martial's place up front?
Well, that he was good last week.
He was.
Probably first
His
good
first good
performance of
game
the
of the
season.
season,
So
exactly.
we won't see him now for another 5 or 6 weeks, probably.
Just to touch on that, as a United fan, obviously what a result. Absolutely incredible result, incredible performance. But are you a bit frustrated because it's the first time in a long time I've seen, players like Rashford and Martial actually on their toes the whole game. Like Rashford's run, which obviously, he ended up injuring himself off it, right? When he tracked back to tackle Mara. You haven't seen that from Rashford all season. Is there a frustration there that why aren't they doing this in every game? Why aren't they playing with this intensity, and kind of level of passion in every game? Or do you just think, just what it is at the moment with the no crowds and things?
Yeah, I mean, of course, it's frustrating as a United fan because yes, fantastic result against City, but then the few games before that, those draws against, like, I think we might have been Crystal Palace and a couple other teams. If we had won those games, you're right in the mix then with Man City. But I find it very hard to be harsh on players this season, given what they've got
Yeah.
to do. No preseason games every 3 days, so it's no surprise. I think recently the games have been quite poor. We were seeing more clean sheets as well, which is reflected in my team, which we'll see soon. So it's a tough season for all the players. So it's very hard to be critical of them.
Fair enough. And have you got your fan team Champions League set for this week?
Yeah, I made a couple of moves in a couple of teams. Didn't have enough Mbappe's in the first week, so brought him into a few and captain Haaland in a few as well. So that's gone well this week. I think best team is probably ranked about 250, so decent rank with quite a way to go yet.
Good stuff. Thank you, Mark. Okay, so for our YouTube watchers, please remember to click the subscribe button in the bottom right-hand corner of the screen and to press the like button if you enjoy our content. So let's just take a quick look, Mark, if that's okay, at the team that won the Gameweek 27 Weekly Monster and scooped an amazing €7,500. I'll run through it quickly. So it had Johnston in goal for West Brom, also had Furlong, and then it had Craig Dawson and Aaron Creswell from West Ham. Creswell was the vice-captain. Then it had Heung-min Son, Soucek, Bruno Fernandes and Gareth Bale in midfield, and it had Marcus Rashford, Diagne from West Brom up front, and captain on Harry Kane. Obviously had a cracking game, Harry Kane against Palace. What are your thoughts looking at that team? In terms of winning the whole competition there.
I like seeing this winning team because it reminds me of it's to me these are common sense picks. You've got your stacks in there, your West Ham, your Spurs, your West Brom, and that's what I've been trying to do more and more of recently. Is really zone in on 3 or 4 teams and load up with the triple ups because those impact points. In the beginning when I started playing with Fan Team, I would have players playing each other, and then you realize obviously they can't all get the impact points in if one of the teams wins. So I do try and just target teams now where I think we're going to win first off. But there's a few things I like about this. Obviously, went for the Bruno Rashford double
Mm.
up when most people probably would have been going for Man City players. So there's your differential. They were very good value. But what I like most, Cresswell, Dawson, Soucek. You're going in there, you're picking the corner taker, and then you're picking probably the 2 biggest threats from those corners, Dawson and Soucek. I mean, Dawson could have had even more goals in
Yeah, you
that
could
game.
if you're right. Yeah.
And then just backing Spurs, who are on it. Really good fixture, going all in on the triple up, which I might do myself soon in FPL. So yeah, it's also I like that there's a blank in here. Diagne blank. It just shows you don't need all 11 players to deliver to win. So yeah, nice picks, and I think it's just refreshing to see that just a really solid picks won the tournament this week.
Yeah, I agree. And if you look at the opponents of all these ones, obviously, which is what we like to focus on when we're picking our teams. Apart from Man United, maybe, but we did, we did say that last week. I think Bruno was 8.2 million, and for a penalty taker for a team like Man United who win so many penalties, he was always going to be a value pick there. Obviously, Rashford was a really brave one. I think away to United. Away to City, but they've proved this. I think this was the third time on the bounce now they beat them. At the Etihad, and as you say, with Diagne having a blank as well. I think when you won it in game week 18, you had a blank up front as well, didn't you? Was it
Mr.
McGoldrick?
That guy blanks 38 weeks of the year, so I don't really know why I put him in my team.
But it just proves that you don't need the perfect team to win the big money. And if you look at this team, as you say, absolutely spot on, very well thought out team.
And I mean it's all about captaincy as well. Obviously nailed it with Kane.
Absolutely. Okay, so our feature tournament for this podcast and video is the Game Week 28 Weekly Monster, which has a prize pool this week of a massive €75,000, and we'll be running through the game's applicable fixtures and sharing our entries with you. We also have a huge announcement at the end of the podcast, which you will not want to miss. Trust me, don't miss it. It is absolutely massive. I am very, very excited. Mark, I haven't.
You're gonna make me wait for this one.
I am going to make you wait. I have to rush through all the picks now quickly. To try.
You're a cruel man.
I get to the end, but I can assure you, mate, it is one of these. Again, another promotional contest from FanTeam that just makes you go, what? Which obviously we've seen so many of week after week at the moment. Just to note, our podcast from next week will feature in pounds sterling and not euros, as FanTeam makes this move across their site. So our watchers and listeners are aware what the Weekly Monster is. It's very similar to the free hit chip in Fantasy Premier League, where you basically pick the best 11 players for the game week that you think will score the most points. So the rules in brief: you build a squad of 11 players. It must include at least one goalkeeper, 3 defenders, 2 midfielders and 1 forward. You can select up to a maximum of 3 players from any one Premier League team. You have a budget of 105 million to build your 11-man team. You can make unlimited changes to your team until the first eligible match kicks off. You pick a captain or a vice captain. Your captain will score double points, as we just saw. Harry Kane doubled his points this week from 17 to 34. And if your captain doesn't start, then your vice captain will replace as well. This guy's vice who won, his vice was on Creswell, so he would have scored well anyway, because Creswell had a 10-pointer as well. Players are priced in accordance with match odds, and safety net applies. So if a player in your team does not start, you'll be automatically replaced by a cheaper player from the same club and position, and player prices do not change. So for those watching on YouTube, the point scorer matrix is on screen. As you can see, it's very similar to the season-long FanTeam game and indeed the Fantasy Premier League game. So Mark, last time I asked you about who we thought would be challenging for the Champions League spots in the Premier League. As we head towards the final quarter of the season, usually there are 1 or 2 teams, who become really, really tight at the back, kind of the lower echelons of the league, who become really, really tight. And this can mean unexpected clean sheets from teams lower down in the table. Have you got your eye on 1 or 2 of these, for the final sort of quarter of the season?
Yeah, well, I think the one that jumps out is Fulham, because they've been so good recently. Obviously, they shut Liverpool out recently as well, much to our frustration, those of us who own Mohamed Salah. I just think they've been excellent. The centre-backs, Adarbayo and Anderson, have been really, really impressive. And we know they've got a great goalkeeper behind them as well. We always think of Big Sam as well with clean sheets, so it'll be interesting to see whether he can pull a few out of the bag between now and the end of the season. I do think they've been better recently. I think they got one last week, and they've got Crystal Palace this week. So possibly, I know the winning team last week had Johnston and Furlong, and it wouldn't surprise me this week to see the winning team with a couple of West Brom guys at the back as well.
And Johnston, in the previous week, in game week 26, had the penalty saves as well, didn't he? I say saves. They hit the post twice against Brighton, but Johnston has been in my team most weeks recently, and he's hauling every week. So yeah, I completely agree. But Fulham look absolutely superb. They do have a difficult run of fixtures coming up soon, so it'll be really interesting to see how they do. But yeah, there's always this thing at the end of the season there where there's always a couple of teams who just scrapping out for those kind of 0-0s and 1-0 wins, and you get some real value, in defence kind of later on in the season. So Fulham and West Brom's and Mark's tips, and I find it hard to argue with that actually. So there are 3 full-round weekly monster tournaments every game week. This week, one has a prize pool of €12,500 with a guaranteed first prize of €1,500, which you can enter for as little as €2. For this week, as usual, there's also a free entry to this competition for new FanTeam users. So if you do fancy seeing what all of us is about, head to FanTeam.com, register and play that tournament for free. There's a high roller tournament if you want to play for big money. But our feature tournament for this podcast is a €75,000 prize pool game with a guaranteed €7,500 first prize or just a €20 entry. The teams we pick can be used across all monster tournaments. Just a reminder, to enter all FanTeam contests, you must be over 18 and be gambleaware.org. So this week we have 8 Premier League matches applicable for this contest, and it starts with Crystal Palace against West Brom, that match we just mentioned, which is on at 3 o'clock GMT on Saturdays, then followed by Everton against Burnley, and then the tight Fulham against the free scoring Manchester City, which I think will be a really interesting matchup there. On Sunday we have Southampton play Brighton in the early game, Leicester play Sheffield United, Arsenal against Spurs in the North London derby, for Manchester United play West Ham, and then on Monday the 15th we have Wolves against Liverpool. So Mark, with these fixtures in mind, which fixtures stand out for you and which will you be targeting?
I think my initial thoughts looking at the fixtures is they're tricky this week. So I think it's going to be a good monster because we'll have a lot of different teams. I think all the top sides have difficult fixtures. We mentioned Fulham against City. Fulham are pretty tight at the back. Arsenal Spurs, London derby, could go either way, although I do fancy Spurs in that one, given how well they're playing at the moment with Gareth Bale in there. United play West Ham. West Ham was very impressive with them again defensively against Leeds. Leeds came at them and they kept them out. And then Liverpool, who are struggling, travel to Wolves, who I think have improved recently as well. So, yeah, I think I'll be targeting probably the other fixtures more so. Your Evertons against Burnley, Southampton were pretty good last week against Sheffield United, so I probably favour them to beat Brighton, who are struggling as well, and Leicester. It's probably a no-brainer to put in a couple of Leicester players against the worst team in the league. So yeah, I think it'll be pretty spread this week.
Yeah, I agree, and I think I'm targeting the same one there. So I'm definitely looking at Everton, Southampton, and Leicester, 3 teams. Arsenal, Spurs, hard to call. I think I have got a couple. Either a couple or maybe a Spurs player, because Spurs is playing so well. They're on the crest of a wave at the moment. Obviously, Bale on that right hand side is just giving them a completely different dynamic at the moment. I actually think, kind of in the short and medium term, it'll be good for Son as well. Because teams will now be careful of Bale. And they'll be probably making sure that he's covered and he can't cause damage, which will just give Son, I think, quite a lot of room on that left hand side, or more room than usual, because with the great respect, players like Bergwijn and Lamela certainly don't afford the same amount of respect as Bale. Wolves and Liverpool, I think normally we'd think Liverpool get on them, but I think Wolves have been reasonably decent defensively. Liverpool just struggle to wait at the moment even score a goal. So I haven't pick these out in my other team, but I think if you are looking for real budget players, I'm gonna put in an entry, I think, which has got a triple Wolves defense because of the price. They're like 5.3 million and things like that, which will enable you to spend a bit of money further afield. That's not in the team I've picked here, but I'll definitely be looking at that as well. Okay, so let's have a look at your entry, Mark. Got it on screen now. If you can just read it out for our listeners and talk us through your picks.
Yeah, so I've gone 5 at the back here, so it's a 5-3-2 formation, which is something I don't usually do in FanTeam. I'm usually probably 3-4-3 or 4-4-2, but I just think recently with the quality of the games, more clean sheets, I think it's worth having at least a team or two that do have 5 at the back. So that's where I started building it. I built from the back. I went double City against Fulham, because although Fulham are really good, they don't score that many goals. So I'd fancy City for a clean sheet. So Ederson, goes in there with Diaz. And because I've gone for Diaz, I've gone for De Bruyne as well. So the hope there is De Bruyne whips in a corner and Diaz sticks his head on it and puts it in the back of the net or a set piece. I've put in a few Everton guys at the back as well. I like that fixture against Burnley. Burnley, a team that don't score many goals, although Chris Wood is a big addition to have back for them, and he's looked okay recently, although pretty fortunate goal he got last week. So I've gone for Luca Dean. Again, I like target and set piece takers in FanTeam and Michael Keane. So again, like Diaz and De Bruyne, I'm hoping Dean and Keane will link up for a corner or a set piece. And then I've gone for Maguire and Shaw. Again, similar reasons. Shaw takes the corners. Maguire usually gets his head on one or two of them during the game. West Ham have been pretty good recently. So I'm not overly confident in a clean sheet for Manchester United, but I think price-wise, 8.1 and 8.2 is good value for those two guys this week. I mean, Shaw's been amazing this season. I think he's created more chances than any other player in the league since the turn of the year. So he's a no-brainer at the moment. Into midfield then, I mentioned De Bruyne. Obviously, I'll see if De Bruyne plays midweek, because if he did play midweek, maybe I would go for someone like Mars instead, possibly. I've gone for the Spurs attacking double up, Son and Kane. Obviously, this could have been, you could go Kane and Son, you can go Son and Bale, or you can go Bale and Kane. You can get all three of them, and I'll probably go all three of them in one or two lineups like the winner did last week. I just fancy Spurs to win this one. Kane and Son have been linking up all season. I think most people might sway towards Bale now, given current form, but I've still got a lot of faith in Son. I think they're good prices this week as well. And then completing the lineup, double Southampton. Brighton are really struggling. It's crazy that they're in a relegation scrap now, given how many good performances they've put in this season without getting 3 points. So I was impressed by Southampton last week, but I think I need to be careful because it was against a pretty poor Sheffield United side. Armstrong was really good in that game. And Che Adams, obviously, confidence will be high after that great goal. So going to go for those two in this lineup as well. And Harry Kane gets the armband, just on fire at the moment, and we know he loves a North London derby.
As he generally scores and performs, and as mentioned earlier, Spurs are going to be on the crest of a wave. I hope from a Spurs fan view, but I think they're going to make life really, really hard for Arsenal. So agree there. We've now got my team on stream. So I've gone for Pickford in goal. So I've gone for a couple of Everton players. We mentioned against Burnley. I've gone for Pickford in goals and Luca Dean, same as you, at the back. I've then gone for another three at the back. So I've gone for two Leicester players. So they play Sheffield United. So I've gone for Ricardo Pereira, who has been, very, very attacking, and probably without due returns. He's 9.7 million, so he's quite expensive, but I just can't see Sheffield United scoring. And with Fofana back, who's been absolutely superb this season, Fofana, so he is back, and I've got him in the team as well. I think he's been very unlucky from a set piece perspective this week. I owned him earlier in the season in some of the other fantasy games. He got his head on quite a few, didn't quite go in, so I do fancy him for a clean sheet. I think there's a good, I'll say a good chance. I think there's a chance of an attacking return there. And just funds wise, I've gone for Riedewald of Palace at home to West Brom, 7.3. Tends to be a bit more attacking than the rest of the Palace players. Moving into midfield, so I've tripled up on Leicester, and I've gone for Tielemans, who is having a superb season. What a really good player he is. I've got Bruno in there against West Ham, 12.2 million. But as we saw last week, he's probably worth every penny. He just keeps delivering week on week for fantasy managers and for Man United. And after that win they've just had against Man City, United are going to be bang up for it on form. So I'm excited to have him in, and I've done the same as you in doubling up for the Saints. I've gone for Ward-Prowse ahead of Armstrong. So Ward-Prowse is obviously on penalties when Ings isn't in the team. Set pieces, playing really, really well, and I thought they played well. A lot of teams have gone away to Sheffield United this season and have struggled, but I thought that Southampton did well last weekend. It could be a bit of a turning point for them, and I've also gone for Adams, the same as you, for the same reasons. Absolute thunderbolt of a goal. Confidence will be high. he should start. With Ings out and Brighton have just been, well, just the most inconsistent team. I was going to have a Southampton defender in as well, but Brighton's XG is obviously it's a bit of a running joke in the fantasy world that their XG is incredible in terms of the amount of chances they create. They just struggle to score, but I can see them probably getting a goal this week against the Southampton defence that has had some beatings over the last few weeks. Gone for Kane as well. As you say, 9.6 million is an absolute snip this week. But my captain up front, I'm going for Richarlison, and it's a bit of a form pick because Ancelotti said last week that while Rodriguez is out of the team, they've shifted formation a little bit, and Calvert-Lewin has been taken out. The kind of spike of the Everton attack, and Richarlison has kind of replaced him there. And I think he scored, is it 5 in his last 5 now? Richarlison, he's been playing really, really well, gets in amongst the goals. Sigurdsson is on penalties when he's on the pitch, but also Richarlison was taking a few penalties at the start of the season as well. So there's always an outside chance that the penalty as well. And Burnley, they're very hot and cold defensively. Burnley, aren't they? They can be superb or they can be woeful. So I'm hoping to catch them on one of those woeful days. So that's my team at the moment. I may have a quick shift, and just maybe move out Riedewald to try and focus, on just the 3 or 4 teams as we talked about earlier there. But what are your thoughts there, Mark?
Yeah, do you know what? It's interesting you mentioned Riedewald there, because when it popped up first of all on my screen, I thought to myself, something I'd be very tempted to do there is when you're back in Southampton already and you've got the set piece taker, why not stick in Vestergaard possibly for Riedewald, go all in. I know you said you Brighton, you think they might score, but I think I'd rather take the chance on Vestergaard over Riedewald. Even if Southampton did concede, there's always a chance Vestergaard gets a goal anyway. He's a man mountain from set pieces. So that is probably the only thing I would change there. I like the Leicester triple up. Obviously, my lineup had no Leicester, but I will definitely have a couple of entries that will have triple Leicester. I'll probably vary it between. Tielemans will be in a few, double defence in a few, but I like Iheanacho at the moment as well. I think he's been doing really well.
I agree.
Good price. And Vardy, I think we can't really ignore Vardy either when he's got the penalties.
Yeah, with Iheanacho, I think he was 11.9, so I couldn't quite stretch to him, especially when you've got as you mentioned, Kane at 9.6 and Adams at 8.2. But I think the forward line there for the value you get, I think is really good value. And this, I suppose that's why I didn't get Iheanacho in this team. But as you mentioned, I'll definitely include him in a different team, and probably put in an Everton or Spurs midfield. I may have Son instead of Kane, and then move Tielemans to Iheanacho or something along those lines. But yeah. I like your captaincy pick as well, Richarlison. I mentioned him on the podcast this week that I like him as a differential captain. I always like him as a differential captain. And like you say, Burnley can be very open at times this season. And Richarlison's probably the ideal player to take advantage of that. So I like that pick. What's Burnley against Spurs a couple of weeks ago? And I just couldn't believe how open they were. They scored a goal. Was it? I'm trying to think who scored the goal. I think it might have been Bale's second goal, and Son just switched it from left over to right, and and their left back was nowhere to be seen. So as you say, I think Everton could do well there. Any other players at all, Mark? Didn't quite make the cut for your team, either from a quality view or a budgetary view or anything else?
I think I don't have Bruno, so I'm probably going to bring Bruno back. I'm going to go back with my tail between my legs this week and buy him back, having sold him last week. So it's that kind of hedge where, do I get him in FanTeam and double down on him, or do I not get him, because we know what will probably happen when I buy him back. He might blank against West Ham. So I mentioned De Bruyne. If De Bruyne plays against Southampton midweek, I may switch De Bruyne to Bruno and go triple United instead of triple City. So that's probably the main possible change.
Fantastic. Okay, so finally then, we're now going to share the incredible news. If if you haven't seen it already. So something went live this morning on the FanTeam website. If you haven't seen it already, FanTeam are pushing the boundaries even further this summer with, wait for it, a £1 million, that's pound, £1 million Euro 2021 FanTeam Fantasy competition with a completely life-changing £200,000 first prize. Do you know when I saw this? I was absolutely knocked off my feet, because obviously the Euros is only, what is it, for a 4-week tournament. You can win £200,000 in 4 weeks for playing fantasy football. What do you think about that, Mark?
I can't believe it. It's I wasn't going to play. I was going to take a break. I was going to take a break from fantasy during the summer, but I don't think I can now. I mean, once you mentioned 200 grand there, I was just thinking in my head, what color of Lamborghini am I going to get when I win it? So I've always liked orange Lamborghini. So that's hopefully by game week 1 of FPL next season, I'll be cruising around in a Lamborghini. That's amazing. I wasn't really too excited about the Euros, to be honest, given the players are going to be absolutely exhausted. But now that there's 200 grand potentially on the line as a first place prize, I mean, amazing. FanTeam just continue to smash it out of the park. So fair play to them. And
absolutely, I've never seen prize money for it. You know, especially for like a summer tournament. Like we say, I think the tournament only goes on for four or 5 weeks. You know, and 4 or 5 weeks of football can change your life forever. And more than that, the game is going to be live in the next day or so. So it's on the website now. It's got a coming soon sign. But go and have a look. Click on the link below and take a look for it. But you know, as you say, absolutely.
So it'll be three months of tinkering to do then.
3 months of tinkering, absolutely staggering. So excited for it, and we will be creating a dedicated Euro 2021 introduction podcast in the coming weeks. So look forward for that, and I would assume that very likely we will be creating a series of podcasts in the build-up to the Euros as well. But just FanTeam continue to just blow you away week after week. And this tournament, a £1 million guaranteed prize pool tournament, absolutely superb. Well done, FanTeam, absolutely brilliant. Okay, so that is it. So on that bombshell, that is it from us for this episode. All the links are below for all the games we have discussed today. Don't forget, for this week there is also that free entry to the €12,500 tournament for new FanTeam users. So head to fanteam.com to register and to play that tournament for free. Thank you so much, Mark, as usual, for joining me this week. We'll have you on again very soon, and the best of luck for your FanTeam entries and all your other fantasy games. Well,
cheers, Andrew. Best of luck to yourself as well.
Thank you very much. We will be trying to learn from the winner this week in the way they structure their team, and I do like your Riedewald to Vestergaard pick. If I can squeeze him in there, I'll definitely be looking at that so much. Remember that if you liked what you watched, please press the like button, and remember to subscribe to the channel in the bottom right hand corner of the screen. If you're listening on a podcast, please rate the podcast and leave a comment. So this podcast will be available as a video on the FanTeam YouTube channel and available as an audio version on all major podcast platforms, including Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and SoundCloud. Just search for Official FanTeam Podcast. Our website is fanteam.com, and our Twitter handles are at FanTeamOfficial and at FanTeam_UK. Give us a follow for regular game updates and for entry giveaways for lots of other FanTeam competitions. Also, all the details for this £1 million Euros game will be all over. I'm sure it'll be plastered all over there, in the coming days and weeks. We'll be back very soon, looking ahead to the Game Week 29 Weekly Monster. The very best of luck for Game Week 28. Goodbye for now.